everybody, and welcome back to my channel. So if you are here today, that means you are thinking about making your own lip gloss, but you're not too sure on how to measure out your ingredients. Whether you're making one test tube or a full batch to sell, this video will break down everything you need to know on how to do that. So today I'm going to share a simple beginner-friendly lip gloss formula in two different versions. One with the preservative and one without. Plus, I'm going to show you exactly how to scale your formula so you can make anywhere from 1 to 100 tubes with ease. Stay tuned. So just like y'all, I was looking at videos when I first got into making lip gloss, and it showed you how to make lip gloss, but it never really showed you how to actually formulate your lip gloss. So you get your Versagel, you put it in a bowl, you add in your carrier oils, your mica pigments, your flavoring oil, and you just think, okay, I'm gonna put all that in, mix it up until I get the right consistency that I desire. And 9 times out of 10, it's the right consistency. You test it out, it feels amazing. But that's not really formulating your lip gloss. That's just making lip gloss. When making lip gloss, it is essential to use percentages instead of guessing measurements. And that's with any other beauty products that you decide to make. This keeps your formula consistent, balanced, and professional, whether you're making one tube or you're making a full production run. So you want to get used to formulating your products, formulating your lip gloss, so that you get the same consistency, the same balance, a professional lip gloss every time. And it's easier to take that lip gloss formula to make one tube to taking it all the way up to making 100 tubes. So here's the basic rule. Your total formula should add up to 100%. Each ingredient is a portion of that 100%. By knowing the percentages, you can easily calculate how much of an ingredient you need, no matter how many tubes you are making. So now let's talk about our two formulas. Our first formula is the one with the preservative. Adding a preservative is a good idea if you want your gloss to last longer, especially if there's any chance of contamination, like using a wand applicator. Our second formula is without a preservative. Now here's the breakdown of the formula. So with lip gloss, it is made of mostly oils, and the majority of that is our lip gloss base. So we're going to use Versagel as the example for our lip gloss base. And staying within that percentages, within that 100%, we're going to use 80% of Versagel as our for our formula. Next, you're going to choose your carrier oil. So when it comes to choosing a carrier oil, you want a carrier oil that offers the most benefits to your customers. So for our carrier oil example, we're going to use coconut oil. Coconut oil is a very moisturizing oil. So we're going to use about 10% for our coconut oil. And next we have our vitamin E oil. I recommend putting vitamin E oil in your lip gloss because not only is a natural antioxidant, it helps keeps the lips soft and smooth. It also boosts the shelf life of your lip gloss, meaning it keeps your oils from going rancid too fast, but it is not a preservative. So for our vitamin E oil, we're going to use 3%. And then next we have our mica pigments or liquid colorants. For our mica pigment, we're going to use about 5%. And then our flavoring oil, we're going to use 1%. And for the preservative, we're going to also use 1%. Usually when it comes to preservative, you want to use the recommended amount. And with flavoring oils, you don't want to use too much of a flavoring oil, because flavoring oils can cause irritation. So you want to stay within that 1% when it comes to using flavoring oils. Now for formula 2, if you do not want to use a preservative, all you're going to do is take that percentage that you would have took out for the preservative, which is that 1%, and you're going to give it back to your oils, whether that's the Versagel base, the carrier oil, or the vitamin E oil. Instead of using that preservative, you will take, if you're going to use that 1% in your Versagel base, instead of 80, it will be 81%. And for your carrier oil, instead of 10, it will be 11%, depending on where you want to put that 1%. Or if you want to put it in your vitamin E oil, it will be 5% instead of 4%. And you also want to be careful with adding vitamin E oil. You don't want to add too much vitamin E oil, because vitamin E oil can change the texture and the feel of your lip gloss. It can make it too sticky. Now, when it comes to adjusting your formula, like I said, if you're not using a preservative, you will just add that 1% back to your oils. Let's say if you add too much Versagel base, so now your lip gloss is a little too sticky. Well, now, a little too thick. So now you want to add more carrier oil to kind of loosen it up a bit, to change that texture. Or maybe you added too much carrier oil and it's too liquidy, and you want to make it a little bit thicker by adding some more Versagel. Well, when it comes to that, you want to make sure that when you adjust your formula, it still stays within that 100%. So a way to do that is by playing around with the mica pigment. You can kind of play around with that percentage. You can use 1% to 5% when it comes to your mica pigment. So if you need to adjust your lip gloss because you made it too thick or you made it too liquidy and you need to add more carrier oil or more Versagel base, then I would suggest taking from that 5%. So instead of adding 5% of your mica pigment, you want to add a little bit less to account for that, the more Versagel or carrier oil you need to add. And that's how you adjust your formula, so that you always stay within that 100% range, okay? Because your formula needs to always equal 100% to remain balanced. And you don't want to mess around with the flavoring oil by taking it from that 1%, because like I said, it could cause irritation. So you want to keep flavoring oils at that 1%, and you want to keep preservatives, if using, at that 1%. But that mica pigment, you could play around with. The vitamin E oil and the carrier oils, you can play around with so that you can adjust your formula accordingly. Now that we know our formula and how to adjust our formula, now let's get into actually making a recipe. So formulas and recipes are two different things. In order to make the recipe, you need to make your formula, and your formula has to add to 100%. So in this, we're going to use the example of the formula with the preservative. As I use preservative in all of my lip gloss formulations, I always use preservative. The reason why I use preservatives, and this is my opinion, is for the assurance of safety for your customers and as security for your brand. And okay, so when it comes to turning your formula into a recipe, I'm going to tell you the easiest way, okay? If you are not a mathematician like myself, Google is your best friend when it comes to figuring out the exact numbers for your formula. So in this example with the preservative, our Versagel base is 80%, our carrier oil is 10%, our vitamin E oil is 3%, our mica pigment is 5%, our flavoring oil and preservative is 1%. So we know the numbers, we know the percentages that we want to use. So what you're going to do, if you're not a mathematician, if you are, listen, I wish I had that gift. Go ahead and do your math. You already know what to do. But if you are not, you're going to use Google. And all you're going to do is type into Google, what is 80% of whatever tube you're using. And so now we need to figure out what tube we're trying to use for our lip gloss. So if we're making a test batch and we want to use a 5 milliliter tube, we're going to type into Google. And also, when you're measuring out your formula, when you turn it into a recipe, you're going to be using grams. 1 milliliter equals to about 1 gram. Okay, so we're measuring in grams. If you want more on milliliters, conversions, grams, Google is your best friend. Okay. But like, if you that mathematician, and you already know. So you're gonna type in what is 80% of 5 grams in Google, and it's gonna give you the exact measurement of what that is. So for 80%, our base is 80%. 80% of 5 grams is 4 grams. Okay, we're going with the 5 milliliter tube here. So when it comes to our carrier oil, we're using 10%. 10% of 5 grams is 0.5 grams. And I have everything written out, you guys. So also, our vitamin E oil, that's 3%. Again, you're typing this in Google, so it's going to be very easy. All you have to do is type it in. It's going to give you the exact number you need, and that you're going to do that for your formulation if you using the formula without the preservative, and any other formula that you are making. Okay, Google is your best friend. If you don't want to do that mental math, if you're not good at math, use Google. Okay. When it comes to our mica pigments, we're using 5%. So 5% of 5 grams is 0.25. And for our flavoring oil and preservative, if you're using a preservative, we are using 1%. So that's going to come to 0.05 grams. Now, if you're going to be using any other tubes, such as the 8 milliliter tube, the 10 milliliter tube, or the 15 milliliter tube, you just adjust your numbers accordingly. Okay, so you're gonna adjust your amounts according to the base percentage method, which is that 100%. Everything needs to add up to 100%. So you're just gonna put in 80% of 8 grams, 10% of 8 grams. Or if you're doing a 10 milliliter tube, 80% of 10 grams, and so forth. Okay, and that's how you get your recipe. So now we have turned our formula, which is the percentages, into a full recipe, which is the everything in grams. So for this, we're going to use 4 grams of base, which is our Versagel base, 0.5 grams of our carrier oil, which will be the coconut oil, or whatever carrier oil that you have. The vitamin E oil will be 0.15 grams. Our mica pigment, 0.25 grams. Flavoring oil and preservative, 0.05 grams. Okay, and again, you will adjust this accordingly if you're not using a preservative, or if you are, and depending on which tubes you are using. Now that you have measured out your ingredients, you know your formula, you turned that formula into a recipe. Now it's time to start making your lip gloss. So first things first, you want to make sure everything is sanitized. Before starting, clean and disinfect all tools, containers, work surface to keep everything safe and bacteria free. Next, you want to start mixing your lip gloss base, which is your Versagel, in your oils. And then you want to mix in your mica pigments, your flavoring oils, and if you're using your preservative. Keep mixing until everything is completely mixed. Here's a tip. When mixing in your mica pigments, mix your mica pigments with your carrier oil first to avoid any clumps and specks throughout your lip gloss. And then you're ready to fill your tubes. You're going to put in your lip gloss into a piping bag and pipe away into your tube. Now you have a lip gloss ready for business. I hope that you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments if this video helped you to formulate your lip gloss. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't already done so, give this video a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more business tips and videos like these. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.